So yesterday we have discussed about Git. We talked and I asked you to perform some steps yesterday.
Yes.
So today what we will do, we are going to see we are going to see few things that you have performed yesterday, right? Let's go to the environment setup. Git. Git. What is Git? That is first question. So you did some job yesterday. You performed some task yesterday. So we are discussing that part today. What exactly you have done. Now consider that you are three people: a JavaScript developer, HTML5 developer, and CSS3 developer. And you are developing a website, your personal website or your office website. And you wanted to distribute your codes. How do you distribute your codes? So JavaScript developer is going to write JS, HTML developer is going to write some tags and other things, and CSS3 developer will add some stylings. So my question is that how these things are happening, or how do you work if there is a no software called as Git? So this can email data to the HTML developer, right? Whatever codes this developer have written, either this developer has to email those details to HTML and the CSS3 developer, or you are going to send it via some FTP server, or I don't know what exactly you will do, right? But if you want to, like yesterday we talked about one thing, till third commit my code was working. The minute I have uploaded fifth commit, code is not working well, and I want to revert back to the third commit. I want to revert my whole software back to the third commit. How that thing is going to happen? So if you transferring the email to each and every developer, presently there are only 3 developers, mail can be a good solution. But what if there are 50 developers working on a project? Are you going to send email to the 49 people? Then 49 other people are going to send you email. That is right. That is clearly a bad idea. And that's why we need some software called as version control system. We need to keep the track who did what, right? Which code have been added by whom. We need to have a track of all these things. There are many version control systems available in the market: Mercurial, Git, SPL. Right? Remember that Git is a system. But when you talk about GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, AWS code commit, all those things are software as a service. GitHub is not a software, but it is implementing the Git related things. GitLab is also functioning on the terms of Git. Bitbucket is also working on the terms of Git. Getting my point?
So they are not software and they are services. Can you
Ha,
explain
these are the services. Like mail, right? Gmail is one of the service. Yahoo is another service. Outlook is another service. But the foundations of the mail are
Yes.
same. You getting my
Yes.
point?
The purpose is to communicate via mail.
Correct. In the same fashion,
Mm.
all these all these softwares, right? Or all these services works on the principles of the Git. Like there should be commit message. there should be staging area,
Hmm.
there should be clone command, there should be push command, in that way. So all those things work on the same principles, but they are different, maintainers of them are different companies, but all work on the principles of Git. Okay. So Git is a distributed version control system designed to help software developers track changes in their source code and collaborate on the projects. It was created by Linus Torvalds, man who developed a Linux operating system, Linux kernel, in 2005, and has since become one of the most widely used VCS, version control system, in the development industry. Right? Here is how Git works and what it is used for. Version control, Git is used for mainly version control, distributed system, branching and merging, collaboration, history and accountability, open source, and the hosting platforms. Right? Version control, we discussed what do we mean by version control.
Yes.
Who have done what, at what time code have been added or removed, whatever. Distributed systems, 20 developers wants to communicate with each other. Email, WhatsApp, other things are not that good options for the code, right? And that's why we need a proper software which are having some protocols, to work with them. And that system is nothing but what? Distributed system. See, unlike, it's not a centralized, we are talking about the distributed. A copy of remote repository, a copy of a folder. So whatever folder you will create in common with all of the developers, we are going to call it as repository. Getting my point?
Yeah.
Repository. Now, here you can say, unlike the centralized version control systems, Git is distributed. This means that every developer working on a project has a full copy of the repository on their local machine. Whatever you have on the server, you have an exact copy on the local machine of the 20 developers or n number of developers. This local copy enables developers to work offline, make changes, commit them, and then later sync those changes with the central repository or the other developers' repositories. Right? That's what the distributed. This is very important. Git is distributed. Git is distributed. This means that every developer working on a project, every developer working on a project has a full copy of the repository, has full copy of repository on their local machine. This is important. Branching and merging. Now what do you mean by branching and merging? Git says that there are the subfolders available. So this is the main folder. If you go to the GitHub and /Angular, this is the Angular we have, open source project from Google, and this is the main repository. Many people are collaborating on this project. Okay, now if you see, just click over here, this arrow, main, this arrow, can you see these many branches are available? What do you mean by branches now? What do you mean by these branches? Kind of subfolders.
That, Anirudh,
Yeah,
yeah, here you showed github.com and
correct.
so if that Angular is a user created,
This Angular
someone
is a
created,
user, correct?
and here
This
means,
Angular is a repository name.
so I mean What is there in this repository? Means Angular share their code or
Yes, a full code of the Angular you
it
will find here. Angular source code you will find over here. Angular is,
is free?
yeah, it's free and open source. If
Open
you
source. Yeah.
if you think that you need to add some code to this repository, you also can type the code and send the pull request.
Oh.
If you think that something is not working in a Git in Angular properly, can you see there are some issues? Open issues are there.
Oh.
Okay, with the Angular there are open issues. Every software has issues. There is no software 100% working, right? So if you think that, okay, I have a solution for this issue. Angular dev URL fragment link broken on API pages. This is some issue. This is the number. And if you think that you have a solution for this, you can first clone the source code of the Angular on your machine. Code clone, right? You get the source code of the Angular on your machine. Then you create a new branch. So this is the main branch. You will clone which branch? You can clone any branch, no problem. But generally we clone the main branch, means whatever code is deployed or whatever code is running in the production right now, that is in the main branch, right? And other codes you will find into these subfolders. Can you say 2.3 version, 4.4 version, or even someone is working on some another features, you can create the folder. Into that folder you will get all the code of main branch, and you start working on that your folder, right? And you give a solution to this particular issue. You give a solution to this particular issue, and then you request Angular developers to merge that code into the main branch of the Angular. That is called as pull request. That is called as what? Pull request. This is how people contribute to the open source project. This is altogether another ecosystem.
But in that case, the other developer may add some bugs, right?
No, but there is a review. There is a unit test cases need to be passed. It's not like that any pull request gets accepted. So whenever you download the code, there are the automation unit test cases are running. Your code should pass all the unit test cases. Right? First check would be like that. Then your code verification will happen, and then your code would be accepted on the Angular. And this is all happen without, what you can say, any centralized agency. Any developer, can you say contributors? Any one of them can see your code, and if allowed to them, they can accept your pull request. You getting my point? And this is how open source system works. And Git is helping at that point.
Okay, and this is the live code.
This is the live code. Can you see here? 4 days ago.
Hmm.
This is updated 4 days ago. Even you can go, can you see 28,000 commits are there?
Oh, yesterday.
Yesterday. Release cut 17.10, next release would be the yesterday. Sorry, this code have been updated yesterday. Now who works?
So whenever we go to the Angular site
Uh-huh.
and suppose there are some fixes, so they will accept the whatever the changes or fixes done by the other developers.
Correct.
They will check it
Yes.
and they will push into the main branch,
Yes.
and then that version will be available.
Absolutely correct. Getting my point?
Yes, yes.
What is the GitHub power of GitHub? And
So basic question, like GitHub, GitLab. So you just said like there are two different providers
Yes.
based on the same means same purpose.
Yeah, principles of the Git are same.
That is the only difference, right?
Yes, that is the only difference. And
And
they have given some their own features also. They have added own features on the top of Git principles.
okay, okay, fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I told you what is a branching and merging. You got the idea, right? Main branch, you can create a branch is like a subfolder in your main folder. So under the Angular, this is the main folder. You can create a subfolder. This is a subfolder. If you can go here, see it would be getting changed. And here you can say this branch is one commit ahead of 8636 commit behind in the main. Right?
Which means this branch
Is having some extra code.
has some added code.
Correct.
Which
Now,
is not yet
which is not yet published on the main. So whoever this guy is will send a pull request from this branch for merging the code with the main branch. If everything is okay, code is accepted.
Okay, means he will send the pull request to
Yes.
the developer, and then the developer will check and they will pull his code from
Code
this
to the main branch. And all this happens by the community. All this happens with the help of community. Right? That is what do you mean by branching and merging? Collaboration. Git facilitates the collaboration among the multiple developers, like this option. I'm sorry, not this option. Contributors. So they can contribute to your repository. That's what Git suggests you. History and accountability. Again, who have done what? You get to know everything in detail. Go to the commit section. Can you see this user? This user have updated this. Again, this. If you see this Angular team and this user have done this job. Okay, that's what fall under the history and accountability. Open source and hosting platforms. Many open source project and the commercial software project host their Git repositories on the platforms like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. If you want to do this with something more private, you can use AWS. AWS
okay.
code commit. One service is there in AWS code commit, right? And that service can be used.
Sorry, pardon.
Code commit. Code commit.
It is again a service.
Yeah, Git service. If you have your own organization, if you have your own organization, and if you don't want to upload your code to these vendors like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, you need very much private. You need your own personal Git. So AWS provides one service called as AWS Code Commit. You can deploy your own Git for your own organization.
Okay. Means they will not able to access our code.
No one will. No one
Just
can.
Like see here, like in GitHub we created you and me created one repository
Public. Correct.
Okay, and now this is accessible by suppose my repository is accessed by you.
Correct.
As well as the GitHub team as well.
Team. Correct. Yes.
This was first scenario.
Yes.
In that case, if suppose I created my repository as private, so you cannot see that repository as a user.
Yes.
But the GitHub team can have the access to my repository.
Not technically, but you can, if you want to understand in that way, you can understand. All the projects on the Git are encrypted.
Okay.
Git and internal employees cannot see your code.
Okay.
Yes. Those are that courtesy maintained by them. These are the encrypted ones. But still you see that no, I don't trust the vendor GitHub. Consider that government. Our government says that no. So these GitHub servers are available in the US somewhere. I want that system which is deployed on my infrastructure in India itself. My source code should not go outside of my country.
Right.
So you will create one VP, you'll create one, you'll select a Mumbai as a zone in AWS, and you will create your own Git over there. That is the AWS code commit. Got it? Hello?
Yes, yes, got it.
Yeah, so this is about what you can say. Uh, this is about what? History and accountability. Sorry, open source and the hosting platforms. Now, Git areas. So yesterday you fired some commands. Just a minute, give me a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. There are three areas every Git would be having. A working directory. What is a working directory? This is a working directory. Day 3. Just a minute. And here I can say Git. Here I can say Git worked on Git. Okay. So this directory is called as working directory. This is nothing but what your working directory is. Now there is one area called as staging area. The staging area acts as a middle ground between the working directory and the repository. Working directory and what? This local repository. Staging area. So if any file you create over here, I can say abc dot or app01.ts, and here I can say where nm is equals to abc. Now you created one file into this working directory, but this file is untracked. If you go here and if you hover the cursor over here, if you can see, it shows untracked file. Can you see untracked? Yesterday we discussed what do you mean by untracked. The files which are resident of this working directory, but which are not added to the staging area. What is the staging area? First step in the Git related things. So first step in the version control system. The files which are in the working directory are not added to this staging area. But if you want to start versioning of that files, first step is to move that file from working directory to the staging area. And for that we have used one command called as git add. And that's why here if you can see stage button is there. Just hover the cursor. Can you see stage the changes? What do you mean by stage the changes? Stage the changes? Stage the changes. Stage means what? From working directory you are moving files to what? Staging area. Agree or not?
Yes.
So you move file from working directory to the staging area. That's the staging is. Now next step. You move file from staging area to the local repository. Remember that local repository generally this local repository represents a local copy of remote repository. If you clone this Angular on your machine, so whatever it will clone along with one local repository. You clone this repository, which means that, let me show you, for understanding purpose, you can recording is on or not? Yeah, it's on. Web development Angular. Yeah, can you see this? There is something called as .git over here. This is a hidden folder. It is available on your machine also. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and there is something called as .git. There is something called as .git. So this is the local repository. You can consider this thing as the local repository. If you can see commit messages.
Aniruddha, can you repeat because your voice was breaking?
So this folder, whenever you clone the repository, any of the repository, Angular or something else, so this thing comes with that repository.
Okay.
And this thing is having all the description related to your Git. What things have been added, a lot of things you will find over here into this. Right? You can consider this is the actual copy. So this is the local repository you have. So whenever you move something from here to here, something happens inside this .git folder, right? And this folder resembles remote repository. This folder and this folder are resembling. This folder and this folder are resembling a remote folder. This is the remote folder, right? This Angular is a remote folder. And this is the local folder. They have some resemblance. Getting my point? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. So whenever you commit something, you move file from staging area to the local repository. So that is the git commit. That is what git commit command is. From working directory to the staging area, git add. From staging area to the local repository, git commit. Git what? Commit. So once you move files to the local repository from the staging area, those files are ready to be transferred to the remote repository. Those files are ready to be transferred to remote repository.
Yes.
Right? And there are three commands, there are many commands actually which communicates with the Git remote repository, but out of them we have seen Git push, we have seen Git pull. Git push, Git pull. Correct? Now see, what is a working directory? A working directory is the area where you make changes to your project files. It is simply the current state of your project on the local machine. You can modify, add, delete these files in this directory as you work on your project. Now, what is the staging area? The staging area acts as the middle ground between the working directory and the local repository. It allows you to selectively choose which changes you want to include in the next commit. It allows you to selectively choose which changes. Now, what we are saying over here? What we are saying over here? Now, I want to stage only app.ts file, right? And I don't want to stage this readme.md. Correct? Might be possible. I'm working on some I'm working on feature A. I'm working on what feature? A. But I don't want to push anything related to the feature B. So I will not stage features related to the B. Right? So I will not stage any features which are related to B. I will just stage features related to A, and these features will remain in my working directory. Correct?
So, Anirudh, can I say like what I understand? Like working area and staging area. Both are in the local machine itself.
Remote, local also in the remote, your local machine only.
Sorry?
The local repository
Yeah.
is also on your local machine.
Right, right. So, staging area means like it is also on the local area itself, but internally it add that file
Okay.
which will be ready to the next one.
Correct.
That means still it is present on my local repository unless I push it to the remote repository.
Yes.
So means something like when we stage, or that means when we add a file from the Git, it is something like it is tracking that file in the index or something like that in the Git. That is what I understood.
Correct. You are correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I was a bit confused about this staging area. So now
Is it clear?
it is clear now. It is clear now. Just simply to say, staging means we add the file, add command, right?
Okay.
Git add command.
Correct.
Okay. Means before staging, they were a track file, and when we add, it goes to the staging state, and they are track file, right?
Yes.
Can I say like that?
Yes. See, I am repeating again. In the working directory, the files are there. which has nothing to do with the Git. If files are there in a working directory, it has nothing to do with the Git. Until you add them to the staging area, Git is not responsible. When you move your files from working directory to the staging area, Git takes the responsibility.
Correct.
Right? And second step, if you want to confirm that, if you want to say something like that, it is confirm this file needs to be transferred to the server, right? So you'll move file from the staging area to the local area. So whatever files are there in the staging area, they are candidate for next push. They can be pushed if committed. Right? Yes. So staging area. Yeah, go ahead.
One question, like we check the scenario of adding. Suppose the reverse way. At what stage we can remove our code or our files? Means before staging, before committing, after committing.
Yeah, everything. You can come back from any step, no problem. Possible.
Even after push also?
Yeah, even after push also that is possible.
Okay.
Even after push also that is possible. We can do that. Head needs to be changed. A little bit advanced concept in the Git. Yeah. Presently you don't need it right now.
Yeah.
But if you add to the staging area and you come back to the working, you want to come back to the working directory, possible, you can do that. You have committed and you want to uncommit, that is also possible. You have pushed but you want to remove from the Git, that is also possible.
Okay. So then explain it in a later stage.
Yes. So not every users can do this thing. Just administrators of your repository can do these things, or the owners of the repository can do these things.
Okay. But as a developer, sometimes it happens.
No, but there should be a code review system. Lot of things are there. Your code is not getting accepted as it is. In your organization also, there should be a mechanism of the code review. There should be a mechanism of reviewing the code, writing the unit test cases. Your all unit test cases should pass. Right? So whenever you pull the code from the main branch and you add your code to that branch, first unit test cases should pass, then manual code review, and then pull request accepted. If that process is not there, you need to first set up this process. And there is one more concept called as Git hooks. Well, this is also an advanced concept. If you see, there is a hooks. You can write check at every single stage. Before commit, if you want to check something, you can check it over here. Pre-push, can you see pre-push, pre-merge, pre-receive, pre-rebase. So it executes these functions. So to avoid the mistakes, you can create the hooks. Consider that in your variable, your thing is that your function name should start with your organization name. If this is your requirement, you can check here in hooks.
So what does this file contain exactly?
Yeah, so some code is there, shell script is there. See here, it's like this. It's the shell script. And it checks your each and every code, or Git related things mostly, but you can write code to check your files as well. Okay. But don't worry about this. These are much advanced concepts.
Yes.
Just focus on Git commit, Git push, Git pull, Git add. This is clear, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The staging area allows you to receive, review, and organize your changes before making them a permanent part of your repository. You can add or remove the changes from the staging area as needed until you are satisfied with the snapshot you want to commit. Then repository is where Git permanently stores the committed snapshot of your project. When you make a commit, Git takes the content of the staging area and creates a new snapshot, which includes all the changes you have staged that we have seen, right? These snapshots are stored in the repository along with the unique identifier called as commit hash. Yesterday we have seen this hash, right?
Yeah, that unique number.
Yeah, that unique number. So these snapshots are stored in the repository along with the unique identifier called a commit hash. The repository contains the complete history of all commits made to the project. Contains complete history of all commits made to the project. It enables you to access the previous versions of your files also. View commit history and revert to the earlier states if needed. And revert to the earlier states if needed. So commits in the repository are organized in a directed acyclic graph, DAG. That is one data structure. So how commits are maintained? Where each commit reference to its parent commit. Every commit is coming from the parent. This structure enables Git to track the entire history of the project, including the branching and merging. Because of this graph, DAG, directed acyclic graph, where each commit references its parent commits, right? And that's why you can traverse through complete project. What is happening at what point, right? That is what the repository. Now after that we have seen some operations. Clone operation. Can you tell me meaning of clone operation?
Yes. When we clone any project, so it makes a copy of the remote from the remote repository to your local.
Correct. To your local machine, to your local computer.
Yes.
Clone. This is the first step. If you want to work with the Git, first step is a clone. Cloning a repository means creating a local copy of a remote Git repository.
Yeah.
This is typically the first step when you want to start to working on a project. To clone repository, you use git clone command followed by a URL of the remote repository, right? Git clone and URL of the remote repository. Now,
Anil,
yeah.
this is related to URL.
Yes.
You showed me that copy that URL. So there are two options. One is HTTP and other is
Yeah. SSH. Secure shell.
So we supposed to take
HTTPS. But sometimes in your organization, you need a more secure connectivity. Right? At that time, you should choose the SSH.
So that URL also, using that URL also I can clone.
Yeah, you can clone, correct. Using that URL also you can clone, no problem. But for that you need to know what is SSH first. Okay. Right? So if you know, yeah, no problem. No problem. So when you say SSH, it is a more secure way than HTTPS. And this is used generally when you are having VPNs, when you are having VPNs and you need to get connected via more secure layer. At that time you can opt for these things. right? So to clone repository, you can use git clone followed by the URL. Now git add. After cloning a repository or making changes to files in your local repository, you need to stage the changes you want to commit. You need to stage the changes you want to commit. The staging is done using which command? Git add command. And the command adds the specified files to the staging area, indicating that you want to include the changes into the next commit. Then we have seen something called as git commit. A commit in a git represents a snapshot of your code at the specific point in time. After adding changes to the staging area, you create a commit using git commit command, right? And here you need to give a proper message. The commit message should describe the purpose of the changes made in this commit, right? Which means that here you give some message.
Yes.
Okay. Now push and pull. What is significance of having push and pull?
Once we confirm, after commit, once we confirm, we commit the path, means it is saved.
Correct.
And after that, I can push those changes to the remote repository. So it will be added into the, you can say, main branch.
Correct. So if you want to push the changes from your local repository to the remote repository, you are supposed to use git push. But remember that before making a push, you need to do what? Pull first.
Yes.
Before making a push, you need to make what? Pull. If you pull the changes, whatever recent changes made by other developers, right, that will come into your recent code base. And that's why you need, what you can say, pull first and then push it.
Yes.
Right. Now, one more file I would like to show you. Usually we are going to use it. Now, if you see, this file is related to the Mac, typically related to the Mac, right? ds_store. Now, I want those files to be removed from the Git system. From what Git system? So here I can go .ds_store. So there is a file called as .gitignore. Git searches for this file, whatever files and folders you have said over here, ds_store, Git will not consider those files. Can you see now? Earlier it was there in the changes, it was there. Now this ds_store is not there. So this file is created by Mac. You don't need to worry about this file. But just for an example, I wanted to show you meaning of git ignore. What do you mean by git ignore? The files you want to neglect, files or the folders. Sometimes your API keys are there, your some credentials are there, your local laptop credentials are there, or your database credentials are there, that never upload to the Git. At that time, you will create some files
Mm-hmm.
or dot environment files, and you will store all those things in dot env files, and env files are not a part of your git ignore file. You can do in that way also. Now I will show you. Let me push it. So I want to stage the git ignore also, this readme also, multiple files, and here I can say a git session completed, and let me commit this, click on the sync, and here I want to go to my repository now. This is my profile, and I can go to my repository, web dev angular updated just now, and can you see there is no .ds underscore store day 01 03 04, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is about what git we wanted to discuss. Any questions? You may read this doc.
Mm-hmm.
I think link I have shared with you, correct?
Yes.
This
Yes.
link I already have shared with you.
Yeah.
Fine, then I have intended this much to cover for this session. Now we are good to go with the Git and your complete environment on your laptop.
Mm-hmm.
From the next session, we would be having the extensive coding. You will type code with me, or I will give some time in the same session. You will type and ask me the queries.
Okay. For Typescript.
Yes.
Okay.
Fine then. Let's call it
Okay.
for a day.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Have a nice weekend ahead.
Yeah. On Wednesday, right?
Yes. You can update me. No problem.
Yes. Yes. If in case I'm available. Are you available on Monday and Tuesday as well?
Yes.
Okay. So if in case suppose I'm working from home,
Uh-huh.
in that case, can I send you a message?